Chapter 2. Signals. The mechanic sat on a footlocker at the end of a bunk bed. His helmet lay next to him, soaking blood into the top of it. He stared off into the distance, reliving happier memories within the mind's eye. He'd managed to find a half-full pack of crushed-up cigarettes, still being clutched in the hand of its owner, which had been removed from the rest of the body. The mechanic took a bent cigarette from the case, put it up to his mouth. Using his plasma cutter like a match, he lit the tip of the cigarette. He inhaled the dark smoke. It tasted like plywood and filled his lungs with a sort of painful, tingling sensation. He exhaled, relaxation coming into his body for the first time in a long time. He heard something, multiple somethings, rumbling down the hall. Footsteps, there was no doubt in his mind. His head perked up at the noise. He rose, clutching his knife close to him as if to strike at any moment. Visions of strange creatures and terrorists flooded his mind's eye, but he readied himself for a fight regardless. The noises got closer. If he left this plane of existence, it would be kicking and screaming, and not of his own volition. A blinding white light hit his eyes, flooding his vision, so he had to shut them. "Freeze! Don't move a fucking muscle!" A rough voice called out. His eyes opened. He was looking down the barrel of an assault rifle. It was the AK-50. All the security guards were outfitted with one, and the man holding it wore the outfit of a security guard. It was a shiny, metallic suit of armor with a helmet that looked somewhat reminiscent of a Spartan's. Where a Spartan may have sported a red mohawk, however, they sported a crimson, painted piece of metal. An outfit that was all at once comforting to those it needed to protect, threatening to outside forces, and of course functional. There were no known bullets that could easily penetrate the armor, although it was not invincible. Two more men in the same get-up rounded the corner. "Drop the knife!" one of them screamed, and the mechanic obeyed. The blade clattered to the ground. He felt their hands frisk him. Then one of them pulled his head down and shined a light in his eyes. "He's clear," the first one said, then followed it up. "Holy fucking shit. How did you survive all this?" The mechanic stammered. I was working when it all happened. I was just changing brushes and then... What the fuck happened?" The guards all swapped looks through their helmets, then the first one spoke. "We don't know either. You're the first living person we've found. We were trying to move towards central comms. Guard comms is a hell of a lot farther, although it'd be ideal to make it there." The mechanic shook his head. "Central comms is dead." "Like, down?" "Like here." "Oh." There was a moment of hushed silence. Two more guards entered the room. "All clear." "Holy shit, you got a live one." "Yeah," spoke the first guard. "He was underside when the lights went out." "He was about to come at you with that?" One of the men chuckled. "Shit, man, better than nothing." The presumed leader drew his sidearm and offered it to the mechanic. "Hey, there's some fucking dangerous stuff out there right now. If you're gonna roll with us, you'll want this." "Like what?" the mechanic demanded. "What the hell is going on? I don't understand. I thought you said you don't know what's going on either." The guards swapped looks again and remained silent. Their leader spoke in their stead. "Look, at time 0333, an unidentified object, suspected to be a spacecraft, crashed into the dance hall. Power went dead. Backup comms are dead too. I'd show you what's blaring on our comms, but... Don't! One of the other men yelled. Yeah. It ain't exactly the local country music station. His voice trailed off as the leader seemed to get lost within his own thoughts for a few moments. He shook his head, snapping back into it. Anyways, we've had 2 hostiles come after us, both neutralized. You mean dead? Asked the mechanic. Yeah, that's code for dead. Fuck me. Other than them, we've seen no signs of life except for you. Now you can stay here, smoke some cigarettes and wait things out. Realistically, you're running off just as much info as everyone else, and probably will have about the same survival rate if I'm being blunt. Or, you can come with us. That pistol's yours either way. The mechanic eyed the gun. I don't have any kind of training at all. I've shot guns on Earth, but they were smaller and I was just plinking. The guard shook his head. It doesn't matter. Make your decision now, because we have to move. The longer we stay here, the longer this mess goes unsorted. And without an oxygen generator, we're going to be running real low pretty soon. The mechanic nodded and clutched the butt of the pistol. I'll go. I don't like any of this at all, but I'll go. Better than sitting here in the dark on my own, I guess. The guard clapped him on the shoulder. I'm Captain Myers, by the way. He pointed to each of the men. That's Goldwaith, Morrison, LJ, and Sanchez. They all nodded as their names were called. So the new plan is, we're going to move toward the guard comms in the central room, but the dance hall is on the way. I want to at least put eyes on whatever the fuck we're dealing with as long as we're moving in that direction. You just take up the rear. If you see anything, any fucking thing, you give it one warning and then you shoot, and shoot to kill. Do you understand? The mechanic nodded, grim resolve filling his eyes. They began their trek through the corridors. As they moved, the mechanic began to realize they were moving towards the exterior of the ship. They arrived at an unengaged airlock, a safety measure in case one of the windows should break. LJ gave a slight whistle as they passed by. Pale starlight spilled in from the window. They weren't near so bright on terra firma, but when there's no competition for light sources, it's hard not to shine brightly. It was entrancing, looking almost like a hull of a submarine lit underwater. They now plodded through a metallic corridor, but one of the upscale corridors. Fancy red and brown carpet was rolled onto the floor, which would have felt incredible on one's bare feet. The LED lampstands, although electronic in nature, were designed to look like candlesticks fresh out of a Victorian-era noble's home. Suits of armor lined the wall, which led back to the rooms, and the doors were designed to look old and wooden, even if they were electronic like all the other doors on the ship. Even the windows were not mere sheets of glass, but rather carefully crafted to look like castle windows, with the woodworking interbreeding with the glass. It was so much money to stay in one of the window rooms. At least 4 years of the mechanic's base pay. He doubted he would ever see that much money in his life, not even if he continued his climb up the corporate ladder. They stalked through the corridor, tense as bowstrings. There was something unsettling about opening a door and going back in time. They were men out of place in the world around them, complete strangers walking in a hostile time period. It was as if at any moment the ghost of some dead medieval peasant may jump out and demand their souls. Metallic Spartanesque armor streaked with red stripes glistened in the starlight, a stark contrast to the intentionally rusted suits of armor lining the walls. Their boots no longer thudded on the floor, but rather they were silently moving like specters. Something was deeply unsettling to the mechanic. Something more than the regular unsettlement at their situation. His eyes kept floating back to the windows as if drawn to them, as if God himself had appointed the most interesting point in the world just outside those windows. His tongue tasted like pennies, and he knew not why. Something was deeply wrong, something was off, but he couldn't for the life of himself put his finger on it. Then he saw it. He didn't precisely know what it was, but he had seen something. A stirring not visible in the light, but visible in the inky black darkness. It was so pitch black out the window, he was almost sure he had imagined it. But as soon as he was about to turn his head, there it was again. Something was out there, although how far or near was impossible to say. Something old, something ancient, something without a discernible form. It was stirring out there in the darkness, writhing, watching.
This has been episode 2 of The Monolith, written by Warren Walker and read by Warren Walker. We're here at the end of another episode 2. I don't really have much to say this week. Thank you for all the support last week. Obviously, I think it's mostly people I know on a somewhat personal level listening to this right now, but it really does mean a lot to me. And, maybe this is starting to get the attention of some people I don't know on a personal level. If it is, feel free to reach out. Comment, subscribe so you can come back and listen every week, or don't, shoot me a DM. Just kind of tell me what you thought. Positive, negative, doesn't matter to me. You can be as harsh as you want. I get super annoyed when I'm trying to write criticism for someone else and I'm trying to come off as not too harsh, so I don't want to put you through that same pain. As far as projects go, this is my main project right now. This was the main one I wanted to release, but I'm also working on some manuscripts for more novels, which will obviously have audiobooks. I'm working on some short horror stories too. So after this series is done, we're looking at kind of a southern gothic vibe for the channel. On top of that, I'm working on some more lighthearted stuff. Those of you that like this might not jive with that, and that's okay, because, I write things that I enjoy. And if you enjoy them, that's great, and if you don't have to listen. So, yeah, we're looking at more of a gnomes and wizards and magical fae folk vibe for the other project, which shall go unnamed for the moment. Yeah, that's really all I got for this week. Thank you so much once again for listening, and I'll see you all next week. God bless.